Dear Toastmasters, we live in a highly technological world. Every day we are bombarded with thousands of news and articles about how the technology is affecting the world out there. We heard that quantum computing is on the rise. We heard how cryptocurrencies are being influenced by one particular person and by what he had to say in the media. We heard how G5 is being developed and how the information war is ensuing. We heard about all of this news every single day. News coming everywhere. Technology is developing so fast, and we have to learn. We have to learn them so fast that it is as they say in Alice in Wonderland. You have to run as fast as you can just to stay in the same place. That is why we, Toastmasters, and in particular our club, Bulls and Bears, are here to strive to learn more every single day. We strive to communicate better, to improve the articulation of our thoughts and ideas, and of course, to learn about new and interesting topics, even technological ones, as the one we have today. Today's meeting is highly technical, highly technological, I have to say. We're going to discuss a topic that has become in the later years very trendy. That is the topic of DevOps. And let me just do a very quick survey around here in the audience. Please raise your hand, those who know what DevOps means. Nice, I can see a few people. That's good, that's good. And now, can you please raise your hand, those who have heard about the concept about DevOps before, but still are not sure what that means? Okay, perfect. I can see some other hands. That's good. So we're going to find out about this particular topic today. Just to give you a very brief introduction, according to Wikipedia, DevOps is a set of practices that combines, on one hand, software development, and in another hand, IT operations. That is why software development, dev, and IT operations, ops. It aims to shorten the system's development lifecycle and provide continuous delivery with high software quality. We can quickly identify two aspects here. First, shorten the system development lifecycle. That means that programmers should code faster, should deliver faster, but also provide delivery with high software quality. That means that what we programmers code has to be of good quality and has to serve the business purpose. But what are these practices? How can we actually apply it and how can we benefit from that? We'll hear about that in a moment. Today's meeting is very particular because we're gonna listen to a project, a level 4 project, which is create a podcast. This project is focused on the creation of a podcast, as it says, but we're gonna hear it live. That means that we're gonna be seeing how our speaker is gonna be interviewing our subject matter expert. And not only that, but we as audience, we're gonna have the chance to discuss and to ask questions ourselves. That is why I would like to encourage you to participate in the discussion and to also let us know if you have any doubts and if you have any questions for our expert. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the topic of the future of DevOps and allow me to introduce you to our speaker for today, Federico Navarrete.
This is a great opportunity because in our podcast, we always focus on trying to understand the future of technology. And this time we're gonna hear about a very important person, someone that I met some, let's say, like a year ago through the internet, that is called Maciej. He's organizing different workshops all across Poland, mainly about IT. He's a trainer and he has been in the IT area for, let's say, a lot of time. He's an entrepreneur and he's trying to build a lot of things. Even if he says 7 years, come on, 7 years to be in the IT area, it's not a short time. It's not. To be honest, he's not a freshman. He's telling us a lot of, he will reveal us more things about this topic. And more importantly, opening our eyes because, yeah, many of us could have heard about the word DevOps, but even the experts, yeah, I have seen some of those calls that people are more confused than what really is this, and they don't really understand. And that's why maybe, Maciej, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how did you get started with DevOps? What did attract you to this topic? And how did you get involved with the Institute?
Yeah, do we have audio? I guess.
Yeah.
Let me think. It was by a chance, I would say. I just happened to get some practice in those DevOps, let's say, context environment. It's like a combination of different technologies, philosophy, culture, methodologies, etc. But it's not defined. It's not defined. Like if you would take a look in an encyclopedia term, and you would know what it is. And maybe that's the beauty of it. Of course, some people try to codify that, and that's good. Like Mark Hornbeek, I guess. Yes, the book Engineering DevOps. Like he proposed some blueprints that you can actually use, like engineering blueprints. So on one hand, you have this philosophy, culture thing. It's like unspecified. You have some idea about what it is, and on the other hand, you have codified methodologies. Like pick what you like, to be honest. And on the side note, like it's good to side with the winners, as let's say there are some signs that the Agile movement is basically dying. So no point in sticking with the losers, I would say, on the whole market game. But that's only my opinions. And I guess that's that. Oh, Institute, yeah, Institute. That's my business partner. Basically, you can get a license, and you can also trainings in DevOps. They have 8 of those, ranged from foundation, site reliability engineering, continuous testing, security, leadership, continuous architecture, so how to build the whole pipeline, and a thing called Agile service management. So how to do iterative approach in service management. That's a curio, let's say, because one person from the DevOps Institute created that. So that's as if I would create my own methodology and say, okay, but that's my own, and I will just certify people on that. That's a product. Cool. It has some good ideas. Not everyone can resonate with that. Okay, I'm fine.
And in your experience, how would you define DevOps after being involved in for a while in this area?
Okay, once again, that's an opinion. And this will probably evolve. How to, let's say, you have three items that you need to put into the equation to have the output. You have practices, engineering practices, technology in one thing. Then you have business reality, and then you have culture, philosophy, etc. So you put technology, engineering practices through the business needs, and then put it to the sifter of culture, and you have the output. So it's a combination of those. Of course, it's not like a mathematical equation on that, because every business is unique. Though the lowest common denominator, I would say, you can say, once again an opinion, you can say that you have DevOps if you have at least continuous integration. Without continuous integration, well, it's a far-fetched statement that you are doing DevOps, because you still need to be able to create some software. Of course, you can maybe create DevOps, try to implement some DevOps practices in different domains, like not really creating software, but maintenance or just business. If your core business is not creating software, okay, you can use some of those concepts like ChatOps, continuous integration of ideas into one repository, or like business proposals, etc., etc. But still, calling that DevOps, well, the paper will put up with everything. Do as you will.
And there is another question about something that, in my case, when I read and heard the first time DevOps, popped up immediately in my mind. How do you define operations? And why I'm asking you this? I used to work in a company that's mainly about accountants. Yeah, there is an IT department. I work in the IT sector. But when I hear operations, my first thought, accountants, HR. I never thought in the IT operations. Never. Because for me, it was the accountants, and because this is the terminology that over 2,000 people uses in the same company. Not even us, the IT department, use the word operations.
Okay, I would differentiate operations because, like, the way with words, language is at best imprecise. Like, if I think that anyone would be happy to have like the one true definition of any word, because you would be able to sell that word and you would be able to tell people that, hey, your definition is wrong, mine is right, pay me more. Like, come on, with Scrum and all those methodologies. Define IT service management. Different providers have different definitions which clash. Like, this is pointless. Like, what is continuous integration? You have different definitions here and there. And even there are two concepts, I would say. Same terms, different definitions, or the same definitions but different terms, which is like mind-blowing situation, I would say. Still, okay, operations, like business operations, everything that is needed to run a company, human resources, a payment system like payroll, what else, sales, anything that regards how the company needs to run day by day. So it can encompass everything, like depending on the company. You don't need to have a human resources if your company counts 5 heads, yeah? You can do it by yourself. Just try to scale up without some kind of human resources. Well, maybe it's possible, maybe not. I'm not at that point yet. And then you have IT operations, maintenance of servers, systems, hardware, code base. What else? Service management, like help desk, service desks, so customer, how do they call that? Well, customer service, basically. Someone calls, hey, I have a problem. And how do you handle that? You have some probably service level agreements, so the time agreed to fix something that is not working, or you basically sign your soul that you will deliver something before the time stops and you will need to pay some fines. Yeah, that's my definition.
Interesting. Let's see if our audience has any question for you. Let's check. If you have any question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them, because it's important that you have some new thoughts about what we're talking about today. Well, it seems that for the moment, the people are still thinking about the next ideas. Now let's go. In your opinion, how does DevOps influence the future of the IT sector?
Tremendously. Like containers. What was first, Docker or Kubernetes? One of those. And after that, you have a totally different approach to how to build applications. It just, it just happened, like a change, not really change in paradigm. It just created a new paradigm, a new approach. And then you have cloud, on the other hand. If you do not feel like you can afford the whole infrastructure, or maybe you don't even want the whole infrastructure on premise, you can use cloud services. Of course, the costs can get out of hand pretty fast if you cannot, calculate properly, but well, it's good to know mathematics, okay? What else? How it defines? Okay. IT is a cake. Take a look at it like that. Everyone wants a bite of the cake because that's a pretty rich cake. if you have a good application, and people will buy that because you promise them that, well, you will have more stability or more velocity of sorts, or less like the escape ratio of bugs would be smaller, or whatever combination of those metrics that you can measure in entities related to creation of software. And then you have different companies which compete in the arms race. It's a war in the business world. Like if you have something, then someone else will try to create something even better so that they sell. And if you are vendor locked, like for example, if you need to use Microsoft Teams, then of course that's a pretty convenient in a way, because you don't even need to think about the better applications because you cannot use them. So yeah, that DevOps created a whole market.
And now let's go a little bit in depth. Something that I've been wondering, because I've been in the IT sector for a while, is why we never thought in DevOps, in your opinion, in the last, I don't know, 2 decades? Because the IT software development has been, I don't know, like for 5 or 6 or even 7 decades already, but we never thought on it.
But I just need to ask this, but never thought of it by ourselves, or never try to adapt it while know that it exists? While knowing that it exists.
What I mean is that when I used to develop software, like, let's say in the beginnings, like 14 years ago, there was nothing similar to DevOps. And the closest thing you started to use version, Git later, but there was nothing like continuous delivery, continuous integration, or anything like that that was very popular. I think it was mainly in the last 5 years that was like a huge boom. And I'm wondering is how we never thought on this that could have solved a lot of problems when we have been developing software for a lot of time.
Let me risk an opinion, a guess, I would say. If you don't know what's going on or why something happens, it's probably because of money. Like 15 years ago, companies need to run somehow. They need to sell. Okay, they have limited budgets, unless your surname spells Wayne or McDuck. I don't know, because mine doesn't spell like that. Then you don't have unlimited money. So people, maybe, I think that there were such applications on the market back then, but people were not interested in buying them, because that would mean that they need to invest, and if they invest in that, they would not be able to invest in something else. That's my logic. That's my point of view, I would say. And now, at one point, what happened? GitHub, GitLab, freemium or free access, or I'm not really sure about the license, because there is a difference between free and freemium, etc., etc. Maybe that changed with time, but you can use it, okay, up to some kind of transaction, a number of transactions, I guess, and then you would need to pay if you're trying to get the enterprise license. But that's fine, of course. So you have something that is working and for free and popular. And if it's being popular, people are using that, so people are actually developing that, providing their own opinions, bug fixes, maybe even some kind of modifications to the source code. I'm not really sure whether GitHub and GitLab are open source. Sorry, not into that. But yeah, it's like open source community. People are somehow flocking to that, creating that, building upon that, and creating their own versions, of course, of similar applications. So yeah, it's like popularity propelled model. And besides, there's no better, I believe, application to have a repository. Yeah.
And now maybe let's listen to Edgar's question.
Yes. I have a question that we were talking about how DevOps was created until now, and for the last few decades we have been working with Agile. That is like what has been growing and has been evolving. But at the beginning of the meeting, you mentioned that there are some leads that Agile is dying. But from my perspective as a software developer, it's actually the way around. It's growing because you can see now like more architectures, you can see more models. So can you please like tell us what are these leads that you are seeing that Agile is dying, or why do you think so?
Maybe that was not the best word. I would say decline in popularity. Maybe that's a better statement. Okay, like, do engineers really need some agile practices? Because that's common sense. Just stop every now and then, talk with your colleagues about what's going on. Maybe introduce some cadence, like in flow management approach, like TameFlow. It's been there for years, and now you can put attack agile on anything. If I would have a sticker, I can put it on my forehead. I'm agile. Like, what does it even mean? It's very hazy. Now everyone can call themselves agile. Okay, so okay, as an umbrella term, you can say that, yeah, we focus on iterative, on incremental approach, depending on what you're doing. That's fine. But it's been there for years. Okay, so like, if you would even do so-called waterfall, because there is no such thing as waterfall. Like, try to find the term in literature, like even in specialized literature, there is no such thing as waterfall. It's just called like that as a strawman, because we are good agile people, and here is the strawman waterfall, and we can punch him. Like, but like, before agile was introduced, projects, work, programs, etc., were still being delivered, and the success to failure ratio, like, I don't even know if we would compare, for example, some report from 5 years, the previous 5 years, let's say only waterfall or incremental, and compared to agile. I can bet my $5, let's say, that those statistics would be similar. Okay, like faster feedback, that's reasonable. But to be honest, like, if I'm having my company now, the longer contracts are very, very comfy. Like, imagine someone is trusting you that, okay, I will just pay you this and that amount of money. Okay, and you will deliver me over 2 years. And I don't even care. I will not even attend your meetings. I don't care about that. I trust that you will deliver. Cool. High five. That's very comfy. And on the other hand, just to close this one, like, attending those meetings, it's like, I've had this situation last time. Like, we've ordered something, like some piece of software, and the company was not really delivering that. So right now, if I don't trust anyone, I would even demand to see, the results, because I'm not rich yet. I just put my money, I invest my own money, so I want to see what I'm paying for. If they are not delivering, then, well, maybe it's not like I would flip the finger or sue them, because that's problematic. But I would maybe be able to stop investing, but still those companies want the full price on top, because that's how it works. Like, continuous funding, maybe someone uses that. Never seen that alive.
So if I understood correctly, you think that agile is dying because like it has become just a buzzword, that now everyone is agile, and like they don't even know what they are doing, but they claim to be agile. Is that so?
Let's compare that to how myths may be created. You have something that happened. I don't know, maybe some person lived, like the Braveheart from the movie. Like, is that person even real? Or Shakespeare? Like there is no proof that there was a person that was called Shakespeare. Of course, there are different theories that maybe it's even a made up entity. So something happened, or someone existed that did something that was concrete, but as the time passes, people are modifying the information, like adding whatever they want on top to get their gains. Like it's like that telephone game that you have 10 people, you have one sentence, and they need to repeat the sentence, and they will of course warp the message. So the more time passes, the more the like, let's say, core idea or the understanding of the idea changes over time. And people will, of course, modify things to fit their needs, which is called evolution. So, but like, if you would try to dissolve, let's say, a vitamin C pill in the water. Okay, you have a glass of water, or let's say 200 milliliters. Then you will be able to feel that. But if you would put a pill of vitamin C into the whole bathtub, which can hold, I don't know, 20 liters of water, that would be diluted. So that's my point. The whole premise behind that, the whole idea is just diluted. It's so hazy that you cannot grasp air. Air it's nothing physical. I can grasp a sheet of paper. Okay, that's physical. But air, ideas, lofty concepts. Sorry, if it's not codified or precise, I cannot relate to that. It's not how mathematics work. But if it works for you, it works. If it works, it works. That's the truth.
Okay, thank you.
And now coming back to the part of DevOps, you said something that continuous integration is something basic in the, let's say, in the DevOps approach. What do you think are the steps that any company requires to embrace DevOps properly?
Well, get people that can do the work. Like, without that, I don't know. You can buy all of the applications that you want, but if people cannot use them, if they don't know how to use those different elements in the pipeline to create value, because okay, let's say if that would not be even a company with a commercial intent, a group of people that want to create a open source application, but they still have some goal. Okay, we want to actually finish the work. If they would be working with 5 people, maybe they don't need to have the CI, continuous integration server. Well, it definitely helps. You can do that without some kind of CI solution, but that would be art for art's sake. Hey, let's prove that we don't need that. But why? It's like, okay, I can cook a soup or whatever while wearing boxing gloves. But come on, it's just funny. Use whatever will give you a boost. that makes sense. But still, CI, I still think that it's really lowest common denominator that you need to have. Without CI, how to integrate the work properly? You will lose money. Every hour costs. You will lose money. If like a good amount of time passes and you do not see results, end of the line, game over.
Well, it's a tricky topic to go into that area. And now that we have that, let's say I even heard a new word that was DevSecops. I know that the word sec is like related to security. And in your opinion, we didn't think before to directly integrate it because of money, or there was another reason behind, like people forgot that the security is important?
Depending on the workflow model, I would say, how it goes in a system development life cycle. Where do you have security phase? After testing, well, depending on the version of the model, I would say. I've been working in such a workflow that you have, of course, all of the standard SDLC, and then after tests, the final gate was security. So it was the Cerberus before a production environment, and it makes sense because that was a governmental company. So yeah, of course, you need to have such people who will be able to sign the contract with their blood, yeah, because if something happens, some sad people can visit them, and they don't want such visits, of course. But still, security. I think, if I recall properly, it started with a thing called rugged DevOps. So, okay, try to implement security in every aspect, like shift left, so shift security, actions, requirements, as far to the start of the pipeline as possible. Even try to integrate security requirements, both functional, non-functional, into the planning phase, like into the requirements gathering phase. Even start there, because if you will cover the work there, the amount of work needed on security will diminish over time. Of course, you will still have some pings because you will need to check depending on whether that's a black box, white box type of application that you're trying to test. Okay, and RAG DevOps was one term. There was also a DevSecops, and somehow DevSecops won. Why? I don't know, popularity. That's that. And now, in that book by Mark Hornbeek, he introduced a concept called Sec DevOps. I was like commenting on his post, like, come on, but that's like, what's the point if you put the prefix at the beginning of the sentence? Like, what does it change? You just juggle some words. And he was like, oh yeah, definitely we have a lot of alphabet soups. Okay, but something. Yeah, he gave his clarification in his note, which was, of course, like rational. Though still like creating more entities than needed, but still people need to somehow differentiate themselves from others. So in this case, Sec DevOps puts even more emphasis on security than DevSecops. It's very hazy, yeah? What I'm talking about right now. It's but still, try to get into the details. You would need to actually read on those blueprints. Because, yeah.
Well, yeah, I know that this is like a tricky topic. Maybe some of our guests have another questions, because as you said, it's very, say, there are a lot of questions that might have appeared.
Yeah.
But it seems that our audience is somehow shy. And well, maybe let's go to the next topic that we can discuss. You said previously that we can buy whatever tech that appears in the market about DevOps. But thinking clearly, which do you think are the ones that are harder to integrate and that perhaps the company should avoid because they are overcomplicated in general?
I cannot truthfully answer such question. Every country has different laws. Like, for example, why we are not meeting on Zoom? Because you have some kind of legal requirements. So if you have such legal requirements, you will not be able to use some applications like government, banks. Do they use cloud? If that cloud is on premise, sure. But if it's somewhere in the world, nope. So you need to take a look at different factors like political, economy, societal, let's say, environmental. Because if it would happen that the company that creates a specific application that you want to use, let's say that that someone from that company did a very bad thing and the whole reputation just flats overnight. Would you like to have such an application in your pipeline? Possibly not. But still, bad rep. Well, bad rep is bad for clients. So yeah, different factors. But let's maybe move from this one to something more broad. Let's say you're trying to do some kind of a laboratory on your own. Try with those popular applications, I would say. You can start with them because if they are popular, of course they are somehow adjusted to meet the needs of the customers, like Salesforce, for example. That's a very powerful application with different modules, of course. But still, just start and then try to do some research, attend some conferences, speak with people. They'll have different ideas, different ways to implement applications, different techniques, etc., etc. And you will find what works for you after some time. But it's not a short path. I would say there are no shortcuts. Okay, there is one. It's called Periodic Table of DevOps Applications. It's on the Xibia Labs. No, it's now Digital AI Code. I think we can send you the link later. It's interesting because that company created a periodic table of different applications and divided those into categories like type of license and the purpose. So, for example, where to manage the workflow. What can you use for testing, for security, for this and that and that? You can, just take a look at that, read some descriptions, put your own pipeline, even on paper. And then, of course, it's not like there is everything there. No, I guess that some people paid to, to have their application positioned on that, but I'm not digging into that. And still, you can always type this name of application alternatives. There are even pages I've been using that I can also send you the link that has a database of alternatives. Like, for example, type Zoom alternative, you will have 130 different applications. Like, whoa, I didn't know so many existed. Yeah, just use the internet.
And which cases do you think they are more suitable for DevOps? Because, well, as you said, there are so many cases that maybe there are some situations that maybe we should abstain of this practice. Although I disagree, but maybe you have a different point of view.
Not really. DevOps, depending on how you look at it. If you look at it as a methodology, let's say, so once again, this book Blueprints, it's pretty innovative in a way, because not even a person before that I know of created any type of codified blueprint for that. That's fine. Then, okay, maybe that would not be suitable for every type of company. Like if you are creating hardware, I don't know, some, let's say, game controllers. You, of course, may use some practices from the whole DevOps library, let's say, like body of knowledge, which is the internet. Yeah, it came around software, and it will be probably always tied to software. Maybe some practices will spill out to different domains, but it's mostly software. But if you look at it as a culture and philosophy, then you can use those practices probably everywhere. And once again, it's not a dichotomy. Like, if you're thinking in business terms, you will use whatever that may give you more money, or more whatever you're striving to get. And that's that. It's like a game. Play your cards smart.
And let's say that now we have the people that in a company decided to invest in the DevOps, so they brought to, like, for you, let's say for you as a trainer, and then you have like but by matter of chance they decided to choose any tool, let's say like GitLab. What challenges do you think they are gonna face after you have these two decisions?
Well, trainings are both, let's say, ways. You can have business trainings, so you speak with people about aspects of DevOps, the costs, opportunities, etc., and you have technical training. So, for example, you decided to buy, once again, the Salesforce, just an example, and you want to get people up to speed really fast, so you pay some Salesforce expert to teach those people some tips and tricks. I'm not a Salesforce expert. I know some applications out there, but there are so many. You will find people who can provide knowledge. So, okay, you decide on the application. If you can afford to have people to learn that at their own pace, that's fine. They will learn that application. But if you're hard pressed against time, then you would probably need to invest into some training to get people up to speed faster, so that they would be able to do more work.
And in your case, how do you define the standards in DevOps? You're part of the DevOps Institute, but what I mean is that, do you have like an official guidelines in how do you create the standards? Do you go to multiple meetings in order to, okay, this is how we define the standards, but do you have like an entity or like something that goes into that area?
Once again, this book, like really before this book, there were no codified standards. It was like, okay, in DevOps Handbook by Jin Kim, just Humble, I guess, you have information about continuous integration, delivery, but on the maintenance part, not really. But you have a different book about continuous delivery and maintenance called Continuous Delivery. Well, surprise, surprise. you have this good business novel, because it's not technical. It's like a fantasy book, but about business reality, called Project Phoenix. Then you have Unicorn Project, and it's also fun. It's Unicorn Project is Project Phoenix rewritten from the developer perspective. So how to solve the same thing twice. Brilliant. And yeah, that lady who wrote Twilight, yeah, she did the same thing. So that they are brilliant. Anyways, yeah, so it was broken into different publications, different sources of knowledge, and you needed somehow to create your own approach, which is okay, because if you have a codified approach, it makes some people lazy. Okay, that's dogmatic. I put it out of the box. Install, click, run, exe, click, DevOps, and now I can count, profits. Not quite. If you put more efforts into trying to build your own environments, well, you will learn things, you will get battle scars, you will lose some blood and sweat, and you will, of course, curse a lot, but still, in the end, you will come up with something new. Maybe your competitive advantage. Maybe you will even use it, not today, not tomorrow, maybe in 5 years, but it's yours because you've hard earned that, not got out of the box like everyone else.
And I have a final question, Maciej. What are your thoughts about DevOps for freelancers? Let's say someone that goes to freelancer.com or Upworks. Do you think that DevOps is useful for them? Because I will say that DevOps is something like very corporate, at least in my opinion, that I'm not sure how a freelancer can use it.
Mm-hmm. Well, to answer that truthfully, we would need to define what is a DevOps engineer. There is not one definition. On a side note, site reliability engineering, the discipline that Google invented or borrowed, that's a different story. They have defined that, okay, site reliability engineer is this and that's clear. If you're not doing that, well, of course you can call your position anything, but it's not really that. In case of DevOps, I've seen different, let's say, combination of skills that would encompass the whole role in different companies. Some people say DevOps. Who is DevOps? It's a programmer who can script, or a programmer who can also do some networking, like in Cisco networking, or an admin who can also write some code, or a developer who can deploy his own application. So, like some combination of skills related mostly to developers and some combination of skills related mostly to operations or admins in different constellations. It's hazy, but definitely if you can code, okay, depending on your personal interests, whether you want to write a code or whether you're interested in testing or automation or you prefer to be an admin, well, it's good to have skills from both sides of the virtual fence, let's say. It's always good to know some at least basic programming like Python, Ruby, really basics. You can learn them in 1 or 2 months. Of course, you'll not be able to write some decent applications, but you will get to know how to think in this way. Same goes for administration. I don't know, install a Linux, like any distribution, learn some bash scripts, like learn how it operates without a graphic user interface, or even go hardcore and install BSD. Ooh, that's hardcore. I don't recommend that. You can destroy your own computer with your force of anger because it's really anti-intuitive anyways. So yeah, it's really good to have those skills. I think that the market will evolve in a way that companies may actually want people who are not superbly specialized in one thing, that they would know at least some different aspects from different domains, because knowing more things can give you more reference points, which is good.
And now we have a question from Alberto. Maybe Alberto can ask the question. Feel free.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, this is Alberto. Thank you. I was listening and I heard this story about SRE that Google borrowed Can you tell me a little bit more about this? Sorry. I am involved actually, I started to be involved in some SRE project here in Deutsche. And this thing brought up some curiosity from my side. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Let's say this is also my theory. Big companies can state different things, and they have their own, let's say, gravitational pull to prove it. That's that. So, like, who knows the truth? What is the truth actually? Like, those concepts are smart, okay? Like, you want to focus on reliability and scalability, so you get some concepts from ITIL in this case, like SLAs and such, like the whole service management concept. You build upon it with your own practices, because like Google started as a web app company. Like everything that they do is web related. Do they have some kind of local products? I don't think so, but I don't also know everything, because it's impossible to know everything. So like they have built upon that. Okay, Google Docs, Google Suite, like the whole suite, Gmail, browser, like YouTube, whatever else they have. And they are building upon that. So they need to scale. So they have created their own version of developer slash admin, like in those fantasy games like warrior slash mage, who will be able to work on a system, on new features, and also to maintain that system that the person built. Because that's reasonable, that if you build something, like you're the best person to know that. If you would hand it over to some other people, well, okay, they can eventually know the system, but it will take them time. So it's like a different discipline, and those concepts, like, are they really unique? Maybe it's like people from Google, those engineers or those business people, just people from that company, got different bits and pieces from here and there, and just combined it into a discipline called site reliability engineering. So concepts are not really original, in my opinion, but the whole discipline, well, is original. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now let's see if we have other questions. That feel free to ask. Don't feel afraid.
Come on. It's lonely in here, in this box.
Well, it seems that people have acquired some knowledge. They are not, let's say, sharing new questions. Maybe you can share them in the chat. And while we're still here, and thank you very much for taking part in this new opportunity, in this new adventure of Cyber Prophets, where you were able to expand your knowledge about the future of technology. Thank you, Maciej, for bringing your thoughts, bringing your knowledge and everything that we need to know, because DevOps is just going to keep growing, regardless in the industry that you are, regardless, even if you're running away, IT is everywhere. And this is something that, in my opinion, we are just going to go into a new level in these areas. Thank you very much for everyone. And until the next time, see you, friends.
That was a very comprehensive discussion on the topic of DevOps. And I would like to thank both of our guests, Federico and Maciej, for making this possible, for coming here and speaking about this highly technical topic. And I hope that everyone here can take something home. Personally, I will be taking home this periodic table of DevOps applications. This is like quite insightful. And just please, Maciej, send a link. This is quite insightful for all of us. Now, continuing with the meeting, we would like to hear the evaluations, because in Toastmasters we're also striving to get better. So we would like to hear how did we do it and how did our speaker do it. Evaluating Federico's speech today, we have Lucy Navratilova.
Thank you, Edgar. What a meeting it was, I would say, because Federico's project was on the topic create a podcast, and the purpose of this project is to create a podcast about any topic and showcase it in our club. And Federico chose as his topic the theme "The Future of DevOps." I believe since we work in IT mainly. The people who are at this meeting, we were very curious to find out more details and also what future brings us. And I also must say that Federico was so brave to create the podcast episode live. So well done, Federico. It was very brave from you. And you were interviewing your guest, Maciej. And I must say that I learned a lot about DevOps, and also I better understood your point of views, and I also felt that you gave us food for thoughts. Definitely. I would be happy if you can share the links you promised to Federico also with us, because I'm just curious to find out more about the topics you mentioned. And also here at Toastmasters meetings, we are more used to classic speech. You know, somebody chooses his topic and he delivers the speech. But today it was definitely different, and Federico was acting more as a moderator rather than a speaker. And I must say that Federico, that this suits you very well, and you were very natural, and you were very confident in this role, and everything basically ran as I would say, as I felt like you are doing it every week. You know, this was your weekly podcast. I would say that was my feeling. And what I also like about your, let's say, moderator role is that you introduce Maciej well, and you were also reacting to his hints, like when he was showing you 7 years in the industry. So it was nice. And you also made us feel very welcome, not only Maciej, but also the whole audience. When you were asking us if you have any questions, don't hesitate. And when somebody raised their hands, you know, after Maciej finished his answer, you gave, you know, just the space to the person who wanted to ask their question. It was also very well done. What else I enjoyed at your moderator role is that you manage the audience perfectly. I would say that, you know, we all felt that you are the person who is running the show, and you basically know very well what you are supposed to do. It was again well done. And what I also like about your podcast is that it has a structure. It was clear introduction, it was body of the podcast, and you had a clear closing. And since we are Toastmasters, and we strive to improve ourselves and improve our let's say abilities, I would like to give you two let's say things you may work on. And the first thing I would recommend is to, let's say, play with your voice. I mean, you know, be, let's say, more variety of the words, make more pauses when you speak about something, like, you know, you can make this dramatic pause. And if you have some very tough question to your guest, and that would be my recommendation. But overall, it was a brilliant, educative, and interesting meeting. And I believe that everyone leaves today's Toastmasters meeting with a feeling that we know more about DevOps. Mr. Toastmaster?
Lucy Navratilova. Well, you were quite accurate in what you say, Lucy, because I know Federico for a long time, and I know that he has been working on a weekly podcast like for a long time already. So he's used to that already. And now we were talking that DevOps, one of the purpose is to shorten the development time. And in Toastmasters, we are also very careful about time. And that is why we would like to hear how did we do it. And I would like to call upon Philip to give us his report on the time. Philip Lucas.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share the time report. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's start with the Toastmaster Edgar. He introduced the meeting. Yeah, in 4 minutes 45 seconds. So Ember. Then switching to evaluator Lucia. She went. She evaluated the speech in 4 minutes 1 second. So also Ember. Not sure if I should sum up all the questions. So now, actually, I didn't see myself in the agenda, so I'm actually not sure if all the questions should be.
Maybe just the total time of the speech.
Oh, okay. Total time. Yeah, sorry, I don't have it yet. So I was mostly checking if the time is within the boundaries for each question, but. I'll send the overall figure later on. Yeah, I've got the separate timing for all the questions. Sorry for that.
Right. That was Philip Lucas.
Thank you. Yeah.
And now there's the only last item in our agenda. What's left? And it's the evaluation on everything that hasn't been evaluated. And for that role, let me welcome Dirk Krumaker to the stage.
Thank you, Edgar. Today, we had a special Toastmasters meeting. Usually, our meetings are following a very rigid structure with prepared speeches, table topics, and with evaluations. Today, we changed it a little bit to have something different. And I think it was a very good experience. And it was also needed because the project, and Edgar already mentioned it in the introduction to this meeting, the project is a level 4, a higher level project, create a podcast. So it's not just a simple speech, it's a bit more to it. And I think it was also very well appreciated. I saw that in the beginning, Edgar has advertised this session here, not only on Jammer like we do always, but also he posted it on LinkedIn. Maybe because of that, we have still a quite high number of participants. So I counted up until 15 different people who are attending this podcast, attending this session here, which is a success, I have to say. So this was really well prepared. This leads me in general to my evaluation of Edgar as the Toastmaster of this meeting today. So first of all, a good idea to have this as a special meeting. That idea was coming from Edgar, and I think he should be recommended for that. While you were presenting your introduction, I noticed that you well used gestures to emphasize what you are talking about. So that was also well done. And I also liked the part that you, in the context of this whole DevOps themed meeting, you also advertised a little bit Toastmasters in general and Bulls and Bears in special. I found also that the explanation that you gave at the beginning of DevOps, the first intro, very useful. So that was a good step into the topic. One thing that I observed and which I could maybe recommend to look at the beginning of the meeting, not at the end, but at the beginning of the meeting, your intonation, your flow of words sounded sometimes a little bit chopped off. At the end, it was more fluid, but at the beginning, I felt it was a little bit broken up. This leads me to Federico as a presenter. So we already heard that Lucia gave a comprehensive evaluation of your speech. So let me put it short, just a few observations and maybe recommendations. Federico, I think one of your big assets is your voice. It's really pleasant. It's good for podcasts, for moderating something. So that is very good that you have this asset. You have prepared your questions well in advance, so you knew what to ask. And I think the biggest thing that Federico has done well is he has, for his interview, very well chosen his guest. So thanks go to Maciej, because Federico, you chose a guest who has not only a broad knowledge on the topic that you interviewed him about, our guest is also not afraid to share his opinion, which makes the whole session more interesting. There are maybe two things, Federico, that I would recommend. The questions that you've asked, they sounded maybe a little bit too prepared. So I would have wished if once in a while you would have reacted to exactly the things that Maciej has said and maybe drilled a bit deeper into what he just said. So that could maybe increase the liveliness a little bit of the interview. And the second thing that I've observed now, after this whole session, I feel very well informed about the present and also to some degree about the past of DevOps. But I was waiting also a little bit about the future. So what is the future? How will it look like in a couple of years? So that is maybe something that you could look into if you would do such a session again. Lucia, you have evaluated the main speech, so to say, today. And the first thing that you did well is you explained the project. That is something that I think speech evaluators should always do, because it's not always clear for everyone in the audience what this project was about and what is the goal. So that was a very good thing. And you also properly observed the traits of Federico's project and provided positive feedback on him. And on top, you also gave recommendations what to improve and had a very good conclusion of your evaluation. So I have nothing, let's say, recommendations that I give now other than, okay, that was a really good evaluation, do it like this again. David was our sergeant at arms today, and we did not see much of him. He stayed in the background, but actually that is very good, because the whole meeting was running fine. His job as a sergeant at arms is to make the meeting running fine, and so he has done a really good job, so there were no problems. And finally, we had Philip as our timer. He was very diligent. It was not too many different items that he had to time today. And I have to say, it's also perfectly fine. I would say in this meeting, in this interview format, it's not possible and not useful to time every question altogether. So a time for the whole interview, that is perfectly fine. Overall, I really liked this special meeting. It was a nice, nice difference to our other meetings. And I also like the fact that we have a couple of new faces here and new members, not new members, but new participants in this meeting. And I'm looking forward to seeing all those new people maybe again in 2 weeks when we have our next more normal meeting. Back to you, Edgar.
Dear Kumaka, so we have spoken about GitHub, IntelliJ, Java, Circle, Docker, production, test, etc. All of this is comprised in DevOps, and all of this is what we have heard today. Ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you have learned something today, and let's remember to always keep on top of what's new, what new technologies are out there, and how can we benefit from all of them.